Welcome back. Today I want to go over with you how to read the fractions on a tape measure. And I'm going to do this with the whiteboard behind me. This video is to help you with your homework assignment in the Google folder on reading a tape measure. So I'm going to spin around and explain to you the fractions on a tape measure, reading it down to an eighth of an inch. I will talk about a 16th, but in the classes that we are going to have, which is woodworking and carpentry, reading a tape measure down to an eighth of an inch will be close enough for what we're doing. Now, if you get into fine carpentry, such as setting cabinets, then you need to be able to read a tape measure down further than that. But for the purposes of this class, reading a tape measure down to an eighth of an inch will be sufficient. So behind me, I have a ruler, and it starts at 3 inches and then goes to 4 inches. So the mark in the middle would be half. Okay. Then the next tallest mark, and they're all done off of sides. If you look at a ruler, it's all done off of sides. So the next tallest mark is going to be halfway between the half mark, right? So then my question would be, what is half of a half? Well, half of a half is a quarter, okay? So then I have 1/4, and then here's my other fourth. But I need you to realize too that you can't put down this one over here, even though it's the other quarter, it is not 2/4. No, you've gone 1/4, 2/4, which is half, and then this one is 3/4. So I'll put 2/4 up here. All right. Now I'm going to split my quarter in half. Doing this gives me where we will measure at in our class, which is down to 1/8. So half of a quarter is an eighth. Then I have 2/8 here because each mark represents 1/8 of an inch. And then I also have over here, this would be 8/8. This is also 4/4. So I put that up here. All right. Now if I split that in half again, I get my next mark. And in doing this, this is where you get into fine furniture, and if you're setting cabinets, and not really used in rough construction, but you go from there. So I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to show you a diagram on the bottom of the whiteboard, and then I'll repause it again or play it again. Okay. All right. So if you do this whole tape measure thing and you are confused as to what line you're at now, it's really simple. We started out with 1/1, which equaled 1 inch. Then we went over 1/2, which equaled the 1/2 inch. Okay. Now, then we moved on. That was this one. The next tallest line is 1/4. Okay. If you notice, the bottom number each time has doubled. So we went 1/4, then we went to 1/8. So this last line that we have here that we have not identified is going to be double that number because it's half the space between. Once again, we had this was 1/1, then half of that was 1/2, half of that was 1/4, half of that was 1/8, half of that's going to be 1/16. So these are all my 16th marks. And so on and so forth, okay? Where in your assignment, if you go through and you count this up, there's 16 marks from here to here. So this is 16/16, okay? Which equals the whole number. In your assignment, if you get to the halfway mark and you're counting them up because you don't remember it or it works for you on the way to read the ruler until you've got it memorized, if you put down here, if I'm asking you what mark this is, now remember, I'm in the 3-inch mark. So if I ask you what this is, and you say, oh, that's 3, and it's 8/16. Okay? That's correct. But it's also wrong. And the fact of if you're in the shop and you yell across the board to your friend to have them cut a board at 3 8/16, they're like, what? I don't understand. But if you ask them to cut a board at 3.5, which is, you got to reduce that down, it makes a lot more sense and it makes it easier for you. So in your assignment, when I ask you what the number is, make sure that you don't do this, but that you take it and then reduce it down. All right? That is how you read the ruler. And if you have any questions, please send me an email or a question in the Google Doc. Thank you. Have a good one.